Welcome back to Cheddar's Opening Bell, everyone. We've seen companies put their support behind Black communities across social media. The beauty industry is quickly becoming one of the most vocal supporters now. People are taking a closer look at how those efforts translate to actual diversity within those brands. Joining us now is Keenan Beasley, who is the founder and CEO of Supply Factory Brands. Keenan, great to have you on the show. Super looking forward to this conversation. Let's start here.
Thank you, Brett.
Do you think brands are doing enough, even with some of the reactions that they're putting out there now?
I think they're waking up, Brett. So, they're starting to realize some of their past discretions and things that were just not going well. I think, one, they're looking at their internal groups and how is their staffing structured. So not only at the lower levels, but also evaluating their executive committees, their boards. I think the last thing that they need to start thinking through is also just their understanding and their representation of what beauty is, and making sure that that definition is also inclusive.
Okay, so let's kind of break this down in a few different facets. One is on the product side, first and foremost. So how should we be thinking about the changeovers that we need to see in the products first, that companies are doing research and development around, that they're eventually putting into retail locations and so forth?
Yeah, I think, coming up, right, I came from L'Oreal, I worked at Procter & Gamble, I worked at Reckitt Benckiser. When you look at the market research industry, you don't see a lot of diversity there. Meaning the market research firms are not as inclusive as we'd like to see. And that has a hindrance on the products that then become developed. And that's really the reason why I started Sunday to Sunday. When I looked at the hair care industry, it was all based around shampoo and conditioners. Well, the habits around the Black consumer and the Black woman is not to wash her hair every day. So starting it, from there is actually a fallacy and part of the issue that we have in the industry.
And then that kind of dovetails us right into the marketing side of the conversation as well. What can these companies who for so long have either been overlooking how to properly engage with people of color, with the community that they are now saying that they very much support, how can they do better on the marketing front from here forward?
When I look at marketing is about humanity. So part of that is just your familiarity with the consumer that you're seeking to serve. And so if your internal team is not inclusive, it's hard for you to naturally come up with those great marketing strategies that we hope to see. Part of this work was addressed by, Sephora with Fenty, and understanding that their executive leadership, their partnerships were not inclusive of the Black female consumer, and they made some aggressive changes. As you go across the board, you have to ensure that your teams and your marketing organizations have a representation that represents the country. And that will then start to diversify the actual marketing programs that you see. We'll start to do things that are more in the Black community, featuring Black people, Black models, and standards of beauty that we see when we walk around the street versus just what we see when we picked up magazines back in the day.
Right. I want to talk about equity for the Black community within the beauty industry. So as you have more founders, entrepreneurs starting their own businesses and then being able to grow them up, because the community also gets behind them as well and says, hey, this is a product that we have not seen on store shelves, that we've needed for so long. And finally, you've got the product, you're putting it out into the market. That facilitates the growth. And then we often see some of these larger companies either swoop in, offer them an exit, say that, we'll acquire you, but we want to roll this into the broader brand. How do we retain equity within the Black community, within the beauty industry, even as we are building out some of these businesses?
Honestly, Brett, I think it's a great question, but a lot of my focus is when you're an entrepreneur, the goal is to exit your business, to have that liquidity event. So I actually don't see anything wrong with selling your business to a larger conglomerate, going public, et cetera, because that's how we then start to close the wealth gap that we're seeing in this country. What I would like to see is more brands stepping up their corporate VC activity and making investments earlier stages in some of these diverse companies. We're seeing great work being done by the likes of Johnson & Johnson. I think Procter & Gamble has now started to shift some of their efforts, Unilever, et cetera. So the more activity that we see in the venture community, in the corporate VC community, I think we'll start to see a shift in the ability to see more successful Black-owned brands, frankly.
Right. Okay, I got to go rapid fire here with these last two questions. I want to make sure we get them in though, Keenan. You previously served as Vice President of Marketing at L'Oreal, as you were mentioning earlier. What are your thoughts on the company's recent decision to change the branding on its skin lightening products?
I think it's a great step, right? They're addressing some of the foes that existed in the community. So I'm happy to see that change and shifting away from things that are actually not healthy for consumers that they seek to serve.
And then just lastly here, your nonprofit arm, Venture Noir, it mentors and develops underprivileged, diverse entrepreneurs, provides them access to capital as well. How do you find and choose brands to support? What's your selection process like?
The goal there is actually to be a venture catalyst organization. So my passion is actually to see more Black entrepreneurs, more diverse entrepreneurs in the ecosystem. The more you have, the more chances of success you have. So what I'm focused on is actually volume, and then equipping them with the right tools and resources to scale and grow their businesses, to then grow up and then one day raise that $100 million venture capital or get that $1 billion Glossier valuation. But it starts actually at the foundation and the base, so to create more.
Keenan, love talking about the industry with you. I also see the sneaker collection in the background, so two fellow sneakerheads here chopping it up early in the morning. I appreciate the time. Thanks so much for joining us.